We've now reached the final part of our discussion of Java's functional interfaces. In this part of the lesson, we'll understand some other properties of Java functional interfaces using Java's comparator interface as an example. When you think about functional interfaces, you typically think about the fact that there's one abstract method. That's almost the defining feature of what makes something a functional interface. However, there's also other properties as well. For example, a functional interface can have default methods or static methods, and we'll see that in just a moment. To make this discussion more concrete, we're going to take a look at the Java comparator interface. This interface can be used to impose a total ordering on some collection of objects. And in fact, we used this in our earlier discussion about the Java function functional interface and how you can use the comparator to sort it. We're also going to show here the use of the @functional interface annotation type tag, which indicates that this interface is intended as a functional interface, just a way of marking it so the compiler can check. Here's the primary abstract method that we have defined, making this a functional interface. This is the compare method. And I use the word primary abstract method for a reason, as you'll see in just a moment. Compare is a simple method that takes two parameters, O1 and O2, and it compares them to see what their relationships are. If they're equal, it returns 0. If O1 is less than O2, it returns less than 0. And if O1 is greater than O2, it returns greater than 0. There's other methods defined in this class, however, as well. For example, there's a default method called reversed, which will reverse the order of the comparison. Recall that a default method provides a default implementation in an interface. However, this implementation can be overridden by classes that implement the interface. There's also a static method defined here called reverse order, which also will reverse the order of the comparison. Keep in mind the difference between a default method and a static method. A default method can be overridden, but a static method provides the one and only implementation. And there are times and places where both of them can be used to good effect. The final method I want to talk about here, though, is perhaps the most interesting, and that's the equal method. An equal is actually an abstract method that is overriding the equals method defined in the Java Lang object class. Interestingly enough, this extra abstract method does not count towards the interface's abstract method count. There still is only one abstract method from the point of view of this being a legitimate functional interface. And that's because any abstract methods that are inherited from Java Lang object just don't count. It's kind of a special case. It's what they call the exception that proves the rule. But the bottom line is that don't be confused about this. If you're going to implement comparator, you both need to implement compare and equals. And so just be aware that you can, in fact, have functional interfaces that have more than one abstract method if that method comes from Java Lang object. So that's the end of our coverage of other properties in Java functional interfaces. This hopefully completes and rounds out your understanding of what these interesting features are in Java and will help you be a more effective functional Java programmer.